Welcome back to my channel. I just want to do a quick video sort of update about something that's happened today that I just want to talk about, and also I just was wanting to ask your advice really, just to see if any of you have got any advice. As you all know, because I've already talked about it in my other videos, I've recently started counselling, privately funded counselling, although I've been allowed to use my direct payments to pay for it. And this was my 4th session that I've just had. And I basically, it all started okay, but again, a few things were said that upset me, yeah, and some things were said that were like quite upsetting, and almost to a point where I actually wanted to cancel the session. I didn't. I was that close to clicking the cancel button on the Zoom call, and afterwards I felt quite upset and quite angry, but I did control myself, but I did tell her it was offensive, because it was, and it's left me, I'll talk about it in a minute, but it's left me kind of thinking whether or not I want to change therapy and find a new therapist, because I sort of feel like the rapport isn't there, and like, I feel kind of awkward saying that, because when I started I thought I got on with her quite well. Like the first session I thought she seemed really nice, and but she is nice. I mean, she's nice, but like, I'm not sure if there's a rapport there, because you can think someone's nice, but if you don't have a rapport with them, it's not going to happen, it's not going to work. And in counselling, like, the relationship you have with the counsellor is actually the most important thing, and often is the greatest test as to how much the therapy is going to help you. Like, it's often the relationship you have with the counsellor is actually more important. Like, they could be delivering any philosophy, existential, humanist, person-centred, cognitive behavioural, it doesn't matter what philosophy they use. If you don't have a relationship with that counsellor, that work, that if you don't feel a connection, if you don't feel a rapport, it's often not going to work. Because it's a bit like with any relationship. Like, it's often a case with any relationship that in order for treatment to work, you have to get on with the person delivering a treatment, no matter how good the treatment might be. If the person delivering it if there's toxic energy there, or if you feel you're not being supported, often it can actually be counterproductive. You know, it's a bit like, say, if you're going to a doctor for treatment and you have a really nice doctor who's exuding positive energy and you feel supported, that in and of itself can sometimes be healing. That's like known as a placebo, isn't it? Like, even if you're not given a medicine, but it's just because of the healing hand of the doctor and they're exuding positive energy, that in itself can be positive. Conversely, if a doctor's giving you all the right medicine, but you don't get on with them, that can be toxic and you can end up actually getting sicker. And it's the same with psychological treatment. The relationship you have with the person delivering a treatment is often the most important predictor as to how much success, how much progress you're going to make. So the relationship is key. You have to get on with that person. There has to be positive energy there. There has to be a rapport. And I just don't feel that there is with this person. Like, you know a rapport when you feel it. It's an intangible thing. It's like a sense of, you know, it's like a kind of, I don't know, like some kind of spark, I guess. And, I mean, that's not to say you're always going to get on with them. Like, in any relationship, and obviously counselling is a type of relationship, it's a professional relationship, but you know, it's a relationship, as in any two people, like a dyad between two people, there's a relationship there. So it's a relationship, it's a very specific relationship, but it's a relationship, and that human factor is key to that relationship. So if you don't get on with the person, if there's not a rapport there, it's not really going to help. And if you really get on with a person, you might fall out, you might have disagreements, that's inevitable because that's going to happen in any relationship. But if you get on with that person, there's enough there, which means you can work through those disagreements. You can kind of trust each other enough to kind of work through them, and the relationship is essentially solid, so it can take some knocks and it's going to still be strong. But with a poor relationship, there's disagreements that are basically just toxic. And I sort of feel, and also there are non-negotiables. There are certain things that can be worked around, but there are other kind of like ideological differences or philosophical clashes that are kind of non-negotiable and can actually be deeply toxic. So I'm just going to tell you now, and now I'm sort of beating around the bush a bit, but I'm just going to tell you now about why I was upset today. First of all, this isn't the thing that directly made me upset, but it was kind of like Tinder, if you like. It kind of did not help matters. Basically, she said that she thinks we're all on the autism spectrum. Now, that is a fundamental ideological difference. I think that we're not all on the autism spectrum, and in actual fact, that is quite an offensive thing for an autistic person to be told. It's actually one of the things that is often written down, like, like a list of bullet points of things that you shouldn't say to an autistic person. One of those things is you should not say to an autistic person that we're all on the autistic spectrum, because it's just not true, and it's actually deeply offensive, and it trivialises and diminishes the categorical diagnosis of autism that can cause a person a lot of problems in their life, and we're not all on the autism spectrum. That is a number one load of crap. My alarm bells are ringing if I'm with any person claiming to be a counsellor who says that. I'm like, okay, I'm actually hearing this. That is not a good start. But it's still a potential. But you can still potentially work around it, and I did. I was still thinking, okay, am I hearing this? But then I was thinking, well, maybe I can kind of work around it. I wasn't feeling upset at this point. I was just thinking, okay, am I actually hearing this? But maybe I can. But I told her I disagreed, and I explained it, and then she seemed to understand my point of view. So I was thinking, okay, well, she does listen. She does understand my point of view. We've got this. Maybe we can work through this. This is okay. We can work through this. But the thing that really ended up setting my alarm bells ringing, that really pushed me over the edge, and that really made me pissed off, was when we were talking about my OCD, which is obviously deeply entrenched, and my problems with anxiety, and obviously with COVID, and not being able to see people, and the fact that I can't see my dad even though I really want to see my dad. She said to me, and how do you think that makes your dad feel? She said, because we'd be talking a lot about your feelings, and you're talking a lot about yourself, but you don't seem to talk that much about other people. And how do you think that makes your dad feel? Do you think that makes your dad feel have pain, or do you think that makes your dad feel upset that you can't see him? How do you think that makes your dad feel? She was really digging it in, and I was feeling quite upset and on the verge of crying, because I was thinking. Basically, it felt really intrusive, and also it felt deeply hurtful, because it was basically almost like I was a child on a naughty step that has basically done something bad and is being told off, like a little 2-year-old child on the step. Someone said, how do you think that makes Johnny over there feel? You taking his crayon or something like that, But obviously OCD, you're not being naughty if you have OCD. You can't help it. It's not like I choose to have OCD. I'd love to be able to see my dad. It's not like I can help not being able to see him. And it made me feel really, really upset, because she basically was quizzing me and obviously I'm autistic, so I find feelings really difficult, and so I was just I was feeling really angry and upset inside, and I couldn't really talk much because I was feeling my brain was seizing up. I was thinking, am I actually hearing this? So I just kind of said, well, I don't know how he feels, because I don't. I don't know what my dad feels. I don't know what goes through his brain. I don't have a theory of mind for that. I'm autistic. And I said to her, I'm autistic. I find these things difficult. I find feelings difficult. And she was like, well, feelings is what I do. I'm a counsellor. Feelings is what I do. And my alarm bells were ringing. I was thinking, am I actually hearing this? She claims to understand autism. She claims to, support people with autism, and yet she's quizzing me about my feelings, which it's a fundamental fact that autistic people find feelings difficult. That's part of the criteria. Treating me like I'm naughty. How do you think that makes your dad feel? When obviously I can't help the fact I have OCD. I'm not doing this deliberately. I'd love to be able to see my dad. I'm not a cold, heartless person. I don't like making people upset. I don't like, hurting people accidentally. But obviously with OCD, it does unfortunately hurt people. But I can't help that. But it was she was basically making it out as though I was basically guilty, almost guilt tripping me. How do you think this makes your dad feel? And it kind of set off a chain of reactions, toxic reactions within me, right back to childhood, when people say, and how do you think that makes us feel over things I couldn't actually control? Because obviously having OCD and sometimes that would make you appear selfish, when you're not trying to be selfish. It's because fear and anxiety can make you avoid things that to a person who doesn't understand might look selfish, but obviously the person who's got OCD and anxiety, they're acting under fear. And when an animal or a human being, and we are animals, is under fear, it obviously might appear selfish or whatever, but the person isn't trying to be. It's just a very animal kind of instinct. It's not under your control. And this basically was really deeply hurtful. And I said to her, I said, I'm finding this offensive. I actually said that. I said, this is offensive. I said. She said, I'm not trying to be offensive, and I'm sure she wasn't. But fact is, she might not trying to be offensive, but what she said was offensive because it offended me, you know. And the effect was it was offensive. And I basically said to her, I said, this is offending me, and I said it kind of is making out that I'm less than human because she was talking about humans and their feelings and saying this is what makes us human, that we have feelings. And I said, because I find feelings difficult. And then she was saying, well, that's what makes us human is our feelings. And I said, I did tell her, I said this is offensive. I said, it's like you're trying to make it out like I'm less than human, because that's how it felt. You know, basically, I just told her I find feelings difficult. She was then saying that what makes us human is our feelings. Obviously, I do have feelings, obviously, we all do, but I find them hard to express them, and I find it hard to talk about them, and I have alexithymia, so I find it really hard to access my feelings. But it was making out, basically, that I was less than human, and this was really deeply hurtful and offensive. And I said, I don't really want to talk about these emotions or feelings. She said, well, that's what counsellors do, we talk about feelings. Like, as though like I was a naughty child or something, not wanting to talk about a particular topic. It just really did not sit well with me. It's given me really bad vibes, and it's made me feel really kind of, I don't know, because I don't really understand feelings, but I guess angry, I'm guessing, probably angry, and just upset, basically. Yeah, upset. Whether it gets anger or sadness, I'm not sure, but I feel upset. That's what matters. And pissed off. And I just wanted to know what your views were, really, as to whether or not I should try and find another therapist, because I was spurred on. Afterwards, I've actually contacted several other therapists by phone and by email, waiting for them to get back to me, via the National Autistic Society Autism's directory, one of whom is based in London and is a doctor and also diagnoses autistic people, so I feel she might have quite a lot of experience, because this person I don't think is that skilled. Like, I'm not entirely sure what her qualifications are, I think, but she clearly doesn't understand much about autism, or she wouldn't be asking me about my feelings. So I sort of feel I need someone who's more skilled, so I found this one in London who I think provides Skype, so hopefully she might provide Skype even though I'm based in Chai. But yeah, I just want to know what your views are really about this, and you know, because it's kind of left a really bad flavour in my mouth. Like, it's kind of given me really bad vibes, and I felt really dispirited afterwards and kind of really quite down by it. Not down, but just angry and sort of like pissed off. And I was like, you know, I was like, am I actually hearing this? Yeah. So I'm thinking I probably do need to find a different therapist, because going forward I'm not going to make any headway. Oh yeah, and the other thing that was weird, she kept on asking me what I wanted to get out of therapy, and like why, and like what we're going to be talking about, and then she said, you just said you were going to find it hard to get out, so what do you think you're going to get out of therapy? And I was like trying to explain, well, I need it long term, like obviously I'm not going to be able to get out straight away, but it just seemed to be such a lack of understanding, like really kind of pushy and intrusive, as opposed to kind of like just gently talking without, I don't know, there's just something wasn't quite right about it. It just wasn't, I mean, I've had counsellors in the past, and they do vary, and I had one person who was amazing and really, 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 really helped me, and who I got on with a lot, although it wasn't counselling, but I got on with them so much. And there's been a few others that I've met, and like with support workers as well, which also vary. I've had support workers that I've got on with really, really well, but then I've had quite a few bad apples, if you want to call it that, as well, who just haven't been helpful. But the relationship is so important, professional or otherwise. You need to have a relationship, because you're going to have disagreements, you're going to fall out at times, but if you have a good relationship, you can ride it out. And then this one is just sending me out bad vibes, like there are just lines you don't cross, and it's just a combination of all the things that is coming to me, like, oh, we're all on the autism spectrum, oh, I'm going to ask you about feelings even though you've just told me that you find that difficult. It's like, I don't care, that's what I do, sort of thing. How do you think that makes them feel? All of these things that are being said that is coming to me. The other thing that I find that I don't like is that in some of the sessions, not in this one, but in some of them, she often says to me, "Oh, you're smiling." Like when I've said something, she says, "I've noticed that you're smiling. Like, why is that, or what do you think about that?" And I'm like, I've got no idea. Sometimes I just smile. It's like what my face does. It doesn't mean anything, and that again shows lack of understanding of autism as well. Because it's like it feels again. I don't like it when people draw attention to my body language. I find that intrusive. And she should know, working with autistic people, that there's often a particular way of relating that's more logical and more analytical and doesn't involve emotions. And if she's going to be like really heavy on emotions with autistic people, she's not going to get anywhere. From any autistic people, that is not going to help them. That's going to be the complete opposite. Because autistics, by definition, find emotions difficult. It's kind of any counsellor providing therapy for autistic people should not be focusing heavily on emotions. That's often, like when you look about how counsellors and that should adapt their therapy, that's often one of the big 101s. Don't focus too much on emotions. She's obviously missed that memo. It's just sending me out really bad. I mean, some of neurotypicals might be happy talking about emotions, going into really emotional stuff. But for me, it just kind of... And she was also like, yeah, it just felt really intrusive. Kept on saying, like, what do you want to get out of this? What do you want? And I'm like, it just felt too much. Like, how do you think that makes him feel? Do you think he's hurt by that? Kind of thing. And then, and she was also saying that most people don't do that. Most people don't have anxiety like you do. Most people can go out and about. Most people, she said, like, for example, for myself, she said, I don't have all this anxiety. So what makes me different to you? And that also was kind of quite soul-destroying as well, because like, I've already got low self-esteem, constantly being made to feel like as though I'm weird because I don't have this problem. I know she doesn't have that problem. You don't need to dig it in. Oh, I know that most people aren't like that. You don't need to dig it in. All that does is just make me feel even more like an alien. I need a therapist who makes me feel included and like not constantly emphasising how different I am to other people. Oh God. So yeah, should I change therapists? Thank you.